Also, Nigeria's power sector stands at a critical turning point. Despite years of reforms, we see, persistent challenges from grid instability and liquidity constraints to gas supply issues that continues to limit reliable electricity delivery across the country. For Nigeria, the stakes are especially high. A new power minister is expected to take the reins at a time when expectations are rising and the margin for error that's shrinking right now. Joining us to unpack this, we have Mr. George Etomi, is a director at West Power Gas Limited. And to help us unpack this, great to have you on the show, sir. Good morning.
Good morning, laddie. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fine. Hopefully I can afford fuel with all prices so high. But aside that, I guess I'm okay. Sir, thank you for asking. All right, so I know earlier this month we had the California Africa Climate Forum, and you were there. Talk to us about what played out from that event.
Well, the California Africa Climate event was held as part of the Climate Week by the California state government. This was a San Francisco Climate Week, and the California government has led the charge to ensure that we use climate-friendly materials for development. The central government is not in support of the entire climate regime, but California, as the fourth largest economy in the world, has decided that it's in their best interest to ensure that the U.S. continues to be on the table. Now, in particular, they want to forge relationships with Africa, and they're talking to Kenya and Nigeria, with whom they've signed MOUs to see how processes that are environmentally friendly are used across industries. And this covers agriculture, covers transportation, covers energy. I know we're talking about power now. And the idea is that when each country that has set itself a target for net zero should be able to take meaningful steps to ensure that this target is attained. In fact, we visited the San Francisco airport where there was practical demonstration of what is now being done to achieve that net zero option. There are 50% of their 2030 net zero targets, and this includes the use of sustainable aviation fuels as part of the requirements for aircrafts. All the materials they use at the airport are recyclable and renewable. And just when you go there, you see that the entire atmosphere is very clean. They're very proud of what they've done. And the idea is that if those of us from Africa, Nigeria is on my mind, begin to deploy clean technology for all our processes, then we don't need to go through all the difficult stages of development to attain a cleaner world. We can start leapfrog several segments of development and then begin to do the things we need to do. You're talking about power. If we begin to look at renewables and begin to look at alternative sources, we will be well on our way to that journey. So it was a great conference to be at.
Right. I guess if there's any time to push harder for cleaner energy, more affordable energy, I guess now, it's that time. Seeing oil at touching $126 per barrel, seeing fuel prices rising, that's also, getting into powering your homes. So we need it right now. But from your vantage point, looking at Nigeria's power sector today, have you seen any shred of improvement so far?
Well, from a legislative point of view, you can say there has been a shred of improvement because the legal and regulatory framework always forms the basis of any investment decision that will be taken by anybody. But in terms of its practical implementation, we're struggling. And that's because electricity was always provided as a social service. So we have a mental block towards treating it as a commercial enterprise. Very often we look at the government's end of things, but we forget that even the consumers don't live up to their own end of the bargain. There's so much energy theft. So with all the best endeavors in the world, if all the parties in this energy mix do not play their roles, you are going to have a struggling sector. But having said that, I just want to say that legislation which has decoupled the sector, it has actually decentralized the sector, is what we should be looking at how should be implemented. States should play a significantly more role. They should work with the distribution companies in their network and see how they can generate their own power and embed directly into those distribution networks. That way, you bypass the difficulties currently experienced with the national grid. Because right now, almost all our power comes from the national grid, and we have constraints. We've ignored the transmission sector for quite a long time. The equipment there is very old. It's struggling with new technology, and is simply not being able to cope with the increasing demand. So decentralizing the way it's been done is a good step. And now how states can step up the plate and ensure they take advantage of this new law is entirely up to the political class in that state.
My producer went ahead of me there. Definitely we see the Ministry of Power, we have a vacant seat right there. And if we look at the hurdles for the incoming minister, we see there's a weak power supply. There's a top 5 there. There's more. Fragile transmission grid, gas supply constraints, sector debt crisis. There's still the metering and revenue leakages there. And at this point, it almost seems. Do we have people that are just scared of this role at this point? The last minister is moving away from that for his governorship plans at this point. Do we have anybody else ready to take on that ministry and we'll actually see positive outcomes?
Yeah, there are so many people who are very competent, who can handle it. But what is most important for me is that anybody who goes there should go there with a clear intention to make a difference, because power is such a sensitive thing. It tends to be over-politicized, and that is because it's so integrated into the political fortunes. So the tendency is for people to struggle to go there more out of politics than out of expertise. Otherwise, like I said, any work for a minister of power is cut out. You just listed out the constraints in the sector. And knowledge is power. Once you know what those constraints are, you can then go and deal with them one after the other. For example, the issue of the gas. Gas is at the root of it. Insufficient gas to power infrastructure for one, and then most of our gas being contracted as LNG and exported. It's a policy decision. That's government. If government decides that they must now have a policy direction that favors more power for gas, it will deal with that problem. Otherwise, you will run into the issue that we're having now with subsidies and with inability to cope with the subsidy regime. And talking about subsidy, that's another major source of abuse. And this is why this regime took the decision to take out subsidies both at the petroleum sector and in the power sector. But having said that, you cannot totally run away from this whole question of subsidy, but it is how you direct the subsidy. For example, if you ask me if you are going to give any support to the sector, it should come at the financing level. Push for single-digit interest rates for those who are investing in the power sector. That is, for me, a better way to direct subsidy than this question of attempt to, let me say, subsidize the consumer. Because gas is a pass-through cost, and the cost at which it is produced is ordinarily should be passed through to the consumer. And if you look at market trends today, look at what's happening to world crude oil prices. They all impact on our production cost. If you attempt to pass that on to customers and using a cost-reflective model, you might not just be able to have people sufficient enough to pay the tariffs that will come along with it. The attempt at banding tariffs, as we can see, has not totally worked. It's only just placed more burden on those the government feels in a better position to pay. And what is their response? Many of them are going off grid. They're looking for solar solutions, which is not good for the industry overall. So many things to unpack, but yes, you can find somebody, and it's good to always get somebody who is hands-on in the industry. We've seen a very good example of what happened with Geometric. Somebody who is hands-on will understand the pain points, and then you just go. You cannot do everything at once. Just pick your battles. And that's why I said the federal should stay where it is doing, just be like the big brother overlooking the sector, but the state should step up the plate. Look for those things in your area for which there's comparative advantage. In the north, there's plenty of sun. I don't see why they should not be investing more in solar energy. In the southeast and the east, you have gas. There are so many gas fields that are still being explored. I don't see why you can't begin to attract investments for gas to power. In other parts, there are hydro. So that we have, in terms of sources of power, we have an installed generating capacity of close to 15,000 megawatts. But the problem is we can't evacuate more than 5,000 conveniently. So the pain points are known. So the thing is just to have somebody who is committed to ensuring that this is happening. So less of politics, more of professionalism.
I guess that's a good place to anchor it there. Less of politics in the power sector. Thank you so much, Mr. George Etomi is the Director, West Power and Gas Limited. Thank you so much, sir.
My pleasure.